Listen up, weed lovers. It's 420 month, and IndiCloud.co is here to elevate your celebration. Get a massive 42% off all weed, edibles, and vapes for the entire month of April in our biggest sale of the year. This is a special year to celebrate 420, as it marks 6 years since the sale of almost all cannabis products was legalized across the country. This allows IndiCloud to deliver to you dispensary-grade legal products discreetly delivered straight to your door. No medical card needed. IndiCloud has something for everyone. Whether you're a seasoned toker or just starting out, you can explore the world of weed safely with our award-winning Soda Shop Gummy Series, our 12 strains of flower, or our record-breaking selection of vapes. Celebrate 420 responsibly all April with IndiCloud. Discreet delivery, top-shelf products, all month long. Head over to indicloud.co/spring24, that's C-O, not .com, to snag 42% off your first order.
We are crazy for believing it, but it can't be denied that unidentified flying objects have been spotted by millions of people all over the world. Follow me down the rabbit hole about UFOs. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we are talking about UFOs. We're talking about your UFO stories. Actually, I'm lying because none of you sent me UFO stories. So I'm just going to share my UFO story, but we're also going to talk about UFOs in the media because, guys, they're everywhere right now. And honestly, if you ask me, I think it's a distraction. It's a ploy. I don't think they put anything in mainstream media. Like, conspiracy theories don't go in mainstream media. That's why they're conspiracy theories. If it's in mainstream media, it's a distraction from what is really going on. But we're going to start there because everyone's talking about it. And it's kind of fun because there are really UFOs in the world. I've seen it with my own eyes. So that's why we're talking about it today. So recently, the Chinese spy balloon has been in the media. But along with that so-called spy balloon, the U.S. military shot down 3 other unidentified flying objects. They're actually being called UAPs now, so unidentified anomalous phenomena, because there's things in the air and we don't know what's going on. You know that. So UAPs, UFOs, it's all the same. So our president didn't address the country regarding like these things that they shot down for several days, which a lot of people gave him a lot of crap about. They're like, well, why would you not address the country? The country needs to hear from you. You're our commander in chief. Like, you're our leader. We need to hear from you. But when he finally did, he said there wasn't much evidence to suggest that these 3 things weren't part of the Chinese spy balloon program. But if anything threatens the American people, he will take it down. So we take that to mean that these 3 flying objects were dangerous, right? I mean, that's how I take it. But also, like, this Chinese spy balloon thing, it's got my head thinking. My first thought was, what the fuck? Because, like, we're gonna let something so slow and obvious, like, it's not stealthy, it's nothing. It's just going to float over the U.S. and just collect all of our data. Well, the Chinese they're smarter than that. First of all, we have TikTok. So if they're already collecting all of our data. Secondly, there's better ways to collect information on the U.S. than sending a very slow balloon over the U.S. So nothing about this Chinese spy balloon thing is really adding up for me. But, I mean, you come to your own conclusions. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Just knowing what I know about things, I can't say a whole lot, but all I'm saying is it's not adding up. And then you have these 3 other things that they shot down. And he's like, if it's going to threaten the American people, we're going to take it down. So, yeah, it seems like it's probably dangerous. So the problem with the cover-ups these days, though, is everyone has a camera on them. Everyone's got their phone. Everyone records everything. So the government has a lot harder time covering up things because people are posting it. Of course, they can, like, slander whatever's being posted and be like, oh, that's not real. I literally, for this episode, got on Instagram to be like, look at people's videos of UFOs, and a lot of times I'm like, that doesn't seem real. But that's the thing, like you can make something up and you can put it on the internet, and maybe it was real, and I'm just like second guessing it. Who knows? But everyone is the news now. Things circulate faster than they ever have before. We don't have to wait for tomorrow's newspaper to end up on our front door to like actually get the news or for us to understand what's going on. And also, we have news from everywhere. So we have all these people all over the world sending their videos or showing videos or posting videos of UFOs or what's happening, like things being shot down. And I mean, of course, we all take it with a grain of salt because we know how much of a lie the internet can be, but we believe it still a little bit too. It's also a lot harder nowadays pulling civilians aside and telling them that it's their patriotic duty to keep things hush hush. It just doesn't work anymore. So people still make fun of us, but secretly everyone knows the government can't be trusted. Like, people make fun of us because we're conspiracy theorists, right? They come and they're like, oh, those silly conspiracy theorists, those nut jobs, they're out there just like, they don't know what's going on. But secretly, nobody really trusts the government. Like, if a military official said, hey, just like, don't talk about this, you would still talk about it. Like, there's nothing really stopping you from doing it. Of course, now there's contracts and things. They don't just like pull you aside and, hey, don't do that. Now they have you sign like a DNR or whatever. Or DNR. Oh, goodness. Yeah, a DNR because you're going to die. I'm sorry, guys. I'm making myself laugh. It's been a week, that's for sure. It's good. It's good to laugh. Laughter's the best medicine. But anyway, so a former Navy pilot named Ryan Graves went on Fox News and told his story about how once they upgraded their radars in their planes, him and upwards of like 60 other pilots that flew saw things in their working areas that were like they were not expecting to see. So their working areas is basically like where they're supposed to fly, what like region they're supposed to fly in, and exactly how far they can go in any direction in order to go somewhere. So in this case, like for a pilot, especially like a training pilot, or like if you're doing a training flight, you would have like diversion airports. So if you can't get back to this airport, what airport will you go to? And just like that's part of your working area and all of that. I don't know if you guys need to know that, but I'm here to share information with you. And I try to explain everything so that way you're not confused when you hear weird terms. It's something I like to do so that way you're paying attention. So these UFOs, unidentified flying objects, right? So we don't know if they're actually aliens. We just know that they're not. We don't know what they are, is basically what a UFO is. And they were popping up on radars, and then eventually they did see them in person. He goes on to explain that one of the pilots almost had a mid-air collision with one of these UFOs. So it wasn't him, but he did explain that they had to submit a HAZREP about it. And so if you don't know, and most people wouldn't know, a HAZREP or a hazard report is basically like a report that gets sent to the whole Navy. And sometimes if they're really bad, they go up, and sometimes they go out to like other branches too. And this could have been one of those because the Air Force, the Army, those like the Marines, they could all be flying in the area, and like commercial pilots. So sometimes if it's really bad and it's a safety concern, they will send it to everybody. But typically this HAZREP is going to go out to the entire Navy being like, hey, there's a safety issue in this area. Be aware of it, is basically what they're saying. But the thing that's really weird is he said that when they saw these objects, they were stationary. They weren't moving at all, which I don't know. Have you ever seen an aircraft, like one of our aircrafts, a human aircraft, right? It goes in the air and there's always turbulence, there's always wind, there's always something. And he was saying, Graves specifically said that they were fighting really high winds at the altitude that they were at, and that these things literally weren't moving at all. And they were fighting winds just to like stay at their altitude, let alone, and he was flying an FA-18, I think. Let me just double check in my notes here. Yeah, FA-18. So he was flying an FA-18, so like a fighter pilot, basically. And they can't really stay still. They don't just like stop in motion. But a helicopter can. Like a helicopter could go up there and potentially, and depending on the altitude too, could stop and like hover, right? But still they're fighting the wind and they have to like they're going to be moving. They're not going to be staying perfectly still. But these things, whatever they saw, they were not moving at all. Other times, they would be in a straight line, or as he suggested, like a holding pattern. But when they were moving at near supersonic speeds. They're moving so incredibly fast. And they would be out there all day. So Graves, who is an FA-18 pilot, said they could only fly tactically for about an hour, maybe an hour 15, but these objects would be out there and flying all day because like somebody would see them and then later somebody else would go fly and they would also see them. So the amount of fuel is astronomical. Like, where are they getting all this fuel and how are they staying perfectly still with all these high winds? Like, and then when they are flying, they're moving in an exact, like a perfectly straight line, and they're moving super fast. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Like, what moves like that? Nothing really moves like that. Nothing that we know, nothing that we have on our planet moves like that. But the thing is, like, you can write off one encounter like this. You're like, okay, well, this was just like a disgruntled Navy pilot. He's a former Navy pilot, right? So he just got on Fox News to tell his story. Like, he just wants to be famous. Fine, okay. But you can't take away the fact that other people on social media have taken videos of things flying around in the air. And I have seen some of these videos. Like I said, I went on Instagram to try to find some videos, and some of them, of course, I didn't believe, and others seemed like pretty realistic to me. And a lot of them, like, look the way Graves explained it. They are flying in a straight line at incredible speeds. There is normally like more than one. There's not typically just one UFO in the air. Typically, almost never have I heard a UFO story where there's only one. I've always heard of multiples. I've heard of threes. Threes is very popular. My UFO story involves three, or more than that. Even two. I don't typically hear two, but I've almost never heard a UFO story of somebody just seeing one UFO. And from the ground, when you're looking up at it, they have like colored lights.
Listen up, weed lovers. It's 420 month, and IndieCloud.co is here to elevate your celebration. Get a massive 42% off all weed, edibles, and vapes for the entire month of April in our biggest sale of the year. This is a special year to celebrate 420, as it marks 6 years since the sale of almost all cannabis products was legalized across the country. This allows IndieCloud to deliver to you dispensary-grade legal products discreetly delivered straight to your door. No medical card needed. IndieCloud has something for everyone. Whether you're a seasoned toker or just starting out, you can explore the world of weed safely with our award-winning Soda Shop Gummy Series, our 12 strains of flower, or our record-breaking selection of vapes. Celebrate 420 responsibly all April with IndieCloud. Discreet delivery, top-shelf products, all month long. Head over to indiecloud.co/spring24, that's C-O, not .com, to snag 42% off your first order. Summer is the season of hot temperatures, outdoor adventures, and refreshing water activities. Summer is also the season of rough on your feet, causing dry, cracked heels and toes. Introducing Babyfoot, the original exfoliation foot peel that contains 16 natural extracts formulated to remove dead skin cells in 3 easy steps. Apply the booties, relax for an hour, then wash your feet. In 14 days, you've got baby smooth skin and your feet have never been softer. Letting dead skin cells build up over time is hazardous to your foot health. Our professional-grade DIY products, like our original exfoliation foot peel, our men's foot peel, or our moisturizing mask, are some of the best foot care products on the market, created with your foot health in mind. Pamper yourself with a spa day from the comfort and convenience of your own home with Babyfoot. If you want a chemical-free, easy-to-use exfoliating process from the company that created the original foot peel, it's time to treat yourself to Babyfoot. Go to babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24 and get 20% off your first order with Babyfoot. That's babyfoot.com and use the code SUMMERFEET24.
So a lot of people, and it looks like they're sparkling, almost like a star would. So like you're looking up and you see this like sparkling, you're like, oh, that's like a star or a satellite. You know, when you're looking up and you see it seems like a star, but then you realize, oh, that's just a satellite. And these things look like that. But the more you look at it and then the more you watch them move, you're like, that's not a star. That's not a satellite. It's not moving right. The color structure isn't that of a star. It's not that of a satellite. It's too different. Too many colors coming from it. But guys, there's just been so many people that have reported this. And again, you get on social media and people post things all the time because they're always trying to share their experiences. But then you have shows like Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, and they did an episode on UFOs, and not just any UFO. There was a town, and again, I'm not from Michigan, so I think it's Muskegon, Michigan. I think that's how you say it. Excuse if you are from Michigan, please send it in and tell me if I'm saying it wrong, but I'm going to say Muskegon because that sounds right, and I feel like I've heard somebody say it like that. I live in Colorado, so like I don't know how to say those names of places. Actually, I lived in Washington State for several years, and if you have looked at literally any town from Washington State, you're like, wow, how does anybody know how to say that? So whatever. It just is, it is what it is, Anyway, on March 8th of 1994, almost the entire town of Muskegon, Michigan saw flying objects in the sky. So they described them, it was described in the episode as like metallic flying objects in formation over Lake Michigan. And basically every single time you hear any story about UFOs, they're flying in formation. Sometimes it's a straight line, sometimes it's another geometric shape, but they're always flying in a formation. And like if they again, there's almost never one. It blows my mind. And so many people have seen them that you cannot believe that these are not aliens. We don't know exactly what they are. That's why they're unidentified flying objects, but it's very weird. They're not earthly, that's for damn sure. The local police department was completely bombarded that night with just like people reporting what they're seeing. There was actually a National Weather Service guy that lived there, and he saw that too. And everyone's like, oh, this guy, he's a scientist. He works for the National Weather Service. Like, he knows what he's talking about. And he, reported to the police. And a lot of the calls got released to the media. And so that was probably not like the best, but also it was 94. So things happen. But the guy that was the National Weather Service guy, he actually ended up like almost like having a gag order. The National Weather Service was like, you will not speak on this. And so after he eventually retired from the National Weather Service, now he can talk about it. And he went back to Michigan later on to like, I don't know, investigate what he thought he saw and talk to all these people. But they almost put like basically a gag order on him, was like, yeah, you don't talk about what you saw that night. But so many people saw it. And you have to say, like, if that many people saw it, there's no way it's not real. And if this many people are reporting it, and again, social media is kind of a fantastic tool in this way, is like we can get on social media and see how many people have had experiences like this or very similar experiences. So you have this Graves guy, this former pilot, who's like, yeah, this is what we saw. But if you don't have 25 other people saying, yeah, it was the exact same way, then you're never gonna, like, you're not gonna believe it. But here's the deal, guys. I've seen a UFO, or actually 3 UFOs. So let me tell you my story. So I should start my story by saying I grew up in kind of a conspiracy-minded family, which has led me on this journey with you all, talking about conspiracy theories. So I was probably like 14 maybe at the time, 13 or 14. And I was sitting on my front porch. We were just outside. It was a beautiful day. It was like it must have been summer because it was completely clear. We were having a fire pit, and I remember I was in like a tank top. So it must have been summertime. And I sat back, and I've always been obsessed with the stars. I just like to look up and just enjoy the beauty of the nighttime. And we were sitting around a fire. We were just enjoying the outdoors. And so I always sit back and just kind of look up and just take in the beauty of what there is. And you know that if you live in a city, the light pollution, you can't see the stars very well. If you're by a fire, again, your eyes are adjusted to the fire, and so you're not going to see the stars very well. But again, I was in a city, I was by a fire. So both things were true. But I decided, my little 14-year-old brain, I sat back and I looked up at the stars. And I was just admiring them, whatever. But then And I could see a few of them. I couldn't see a lot, but I could see like the big ones, and they're probably planets or satellites. They probably weren't actually stars. And then I saw this triangle of stars moving through the sky. And I already knew, like I knew right away. I was like, this is no way these are stars. Like this is a UFO, right? And it wasn't like, it was just three. So you had them and they were in a perfect triangle. Like a perfect equilateral triangle, and basically the UFOs would be like each of the points, and they were flying. And it was weird because like I was obviously looking up for a while, and I don't know if they just like appeared out of nowhere and all of a sudden I could see them, or if they had been flying for a while and then my eye just caught them. But they were moving super fast, like so fast, and they were moving in this triangle pattern. They never once broke this triangle pattern. It was perfect. It was a perfect triangle. They never once strayed from it, and they were on. I feel like they were like, my head was more like upright, and then slowly I would putting my head back. So they were kind of moving from kind of more the horizon, and they moved over top of my person. But the thing that's really weird is that, and I wasn't looking exactly straight forward. I was looking probably like 45 degrees up, and then I watched them go across the sky, and then they just disappeared. Like, they didn't get smaller and smaller, and then they were gone. I just couldn't see them anymore. It was like they were moving really fast, and they were the same size the whole time, and then all of a sudden they were just gone. And I was like, what the heck? And nobody else was out there like on the patio with me at the time. They had gone in for s'more stuff or drinks or whatever people go inside for. And so I was just out there watching the fire, and I was waiting for somebody to come back. And as soon as somebody did, like my dad came out, I think, and I was like, Dad, you won't believe what I just saw. I just saw these like UFOs. And of course, conspiracy minded family were like, all right, cool. Yeah, like absolutely. I mean, we're not super excited about it because, yeah, of course you're going to see UFOs if you look up in the sky long enough. But then something else really weird happened. And actually, guys, I think I lied to you earlier, because I just remembered this story from a couple years ago, and it's kind of weird. What the heck? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just like having this memory. So I had just had my son. My son's birthday is in June, and so it was July 4th. We were out again by a fire, and my parents were here. And we were where I live. You can kind of just like look out in the horizon and see a bunch of fireworks. And my son was just a baby. He was brand new. And so we were just sitting there, and I was just trying to take care of this little baby. I didn't know how to be a mom. And then my dad like pointed this thing out in the sky, and it was just one. And that's where I think I lied, because it was just a single thing. And maybe it was a drone. But it was up in the sky for a really long time, and it was a really bright light, but it was close to the ground, but it was small. So that's where it's like, maybe it was a drone. And at first, like, to me, I thought maybe it was just a helicopter, so I kind of wrote it off. But the more you watched it, like, there wasn't like a green and red light. And on our aircrafts, they're required to have green and red lights. And actually, boats have them too. So every like aircraft and boat, they have a white light, a green light, and a red light, and it's mostly for navigational purposes. We were always told when I was in the Navy, red on right, you're dead, or like right on red, you're dead, is like the thing, like what we would say, because if you are looking at a plane and the red light is on the right side, it's coming straight at you and you're going to collide with it. So like right on red, you're dead. So, anyway, we were watching this thing in the sky. My dad pointed it out and he was like, yeah, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's probably a helicopter or a drone. But then we kept watching it, and it was there like all night, and drones would run out of battery, and it didn't move. It stayed in the same spot, and it was close to the ground. So it was really small. I don't know. Again, I tried to write it off like just a drone, and the more I watched it, and I kind of watched it all the rest of the night, my dad pointed it out, and I was like, what the heck? And then eventually, like, we had to put the fire out. We needed to go inside. It was still there, and I don't know what happened later on. Where I live, it's kind of in the pattern. It's not necessarily in the pattern of the airport, but a lot of planes, if you're coming from the south, they kind of go right overhead of us. And so we see a lot of aircraft out here, like just flying over, going to the airport. I mean, when there's two airports just north of us. And so we see a lot of aircraft, and so to me it made sense that it would just be a helicopter or something, but thinking back on it, there's no way it could have been a helicopter. A drone makes sense, but still, like, being out there that long doesn't make that much sense. But it was only one, again, and that's where I'm second guessing myself. I don't know. Like, I've never heard of anybody else's story of just being like one UFO, or like one, if it is a UFO, like, an alien UFO technically. This obviously is an unidentified flying object, because I have no idea what it is, but it could be a drone. And that's the problem nowadays. There's so many drones. Back when I was 14, drones weren't really a thing yet. And these things were not close to the ground. They were way up high, and they were moving so fast. It was literally like, I don't know, like a span of 30 seconds where it went from like my 45-degree head up to my head straight up to them just gone. 30 seconds. Like, that's quick. And even then, even at 14, I was like, that is fast. That is not like any airplane I've ever seen. So I don't know, guys. There's something to this UFO story. I want to share your guys' stories. So actually, I want to share any of your stories. So if you guys have UFO stories, send them to me. I want to do a Glitch in the Matrix episode. So if you guys have Glitch in the Matrix stories, you can send them over to me. I follow somebody on Instagram, and she's always doing Glitch in the Matrix stories, and they freak me out because they're so freaking cool, but also like creepy. So if you have those stories, you guys can send them to me, and I will share them on the podcast. But any like conspiracy type stories, if you have your own personal theories, I did a personal theories episode once, but I'd love to share yours. So if you guys want to interact with me a little bit more, send me your stories and I will share them on the podcast, and I'll give you credit, or I can change your name. I don't care. Whatever you guys want. But of course, my friends, until next week, stay skeptical, and I will see you all very soon. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.